Everyone, good evening. My name is Richard Becker. I'm a clinical exercise physiologist here at Greenwich Hospital. I work for two different departments. I should wear two different hats here. As an exercise physiologist, I work at the Center for Healthy Living, Cardiac and Pulmonary Rehab. We have multiple programs within that department, but primarily it's cardiac and pulmonary rehab, and then we have some post-rehab programs, self-pay programs that people can join to continue their level of care as a self-pay, medically supervised environments as opposed to going to a traditional, conventional fitness center. My other department, as a certified diabetes educator, I work with the Center for Nutritional and Behavioral Health here on Holly Hill campus. I do primarily, I'm the primary resource for outpatient diabetes patients that either are newly diagnosed or, maybe somebody is falling off the wagon a little bit where they need to kind of up their game a little and kind of get their diabetes under control, medication, insulin management, checking their blood sugars, what to do with their blood sugars. We discuss, diet and caloric and carbohydrate intake. And then, many other things. But today, kind of getting back activity into your lifestyle. We got a new year. We all, do our best to try and give ourselves a New Year's resolution. Somebody asked me a few weeks ago what my New Year's resolution was going to be, and I chose sleep. I've never been a big believer in resolutions because we should make them a part of our lifestyle all the time. But, it starts somewhere, and my doctor asked me how I slept, and I said, it's an interesting thing. And, my age, I don't sleep like I used to. I sleep okay, but I think I could probably do a better job at the quality of sleep I'm getting. But, talking about, physical activity and adding physical activity to our daily lives is always very common in terms of, starting a new year and adding it, adding it into our lifestyle. But activity and exercise, first of all, exercise, can be very, dirty, nasty words, it's very stereotyped, has a stigma to it. But really, when somebody's trying to get back into either exercise or be more active, if you're going to do something formal, the easy thing to do, I think the safest thing to do right off the bat is, checking in with your physician. Do you have any risk factors, comorbidities that would change the type and amount and intensity and duration of exercise, formal exercise that somebody should be doing? And the answer to all that is yes. There is no one size fits all in terms of a formal exercise bout, but certainly checking with the physician to make sure that anything that clinically may be going on is addressed and kind of cleared by by your physicians. The benefits of exercise or activity, and I use the word activity, really is really anything beyond sitting in a chair, watching TV, being on a computer. Gardening, taking a walk, parking a little bit further from, a building, taking the stairs if you can versus an elevator. Taking an extra lap around the supermarket, little things like that over time can really add up. Years ago, I did a lecture within a weight management group. It was actually a bariatric group. And this woman asked me, very simple, she says, Rich, this all sounds great. But how do I get motivated to start? How do I get motivated to stick with it? And I said, it's the hardest thing to do because behavior change is, first of all, ultimately changes have 5 stages. And, unless it's done perfectly with something with a really good mindset, change is tough for really anybody. But, I said, one thing that individuals who may not have ever experienced some type of quality formal exercise, they may not know what it feels like to feel the health benefits of activity, whether it's walking up and down stairs or walking on a consistent basis, or joining a medically based fitness and cardiovascular facility that offers appropriate amounts of exercise or activity for different populations. As it sometimes people all of a sudden feel, wow, I feel so much better. I'm going to continue doing it. So sometimes just feeling better, really is a good motivating factor, because they feel better than they did sitting on their couch, watching TV and clicking the thing in, eating popcorn. So it's really can be one really good advantageous motivator for people to start and continue adhering to a new onset exercise program. So we talked about the doctor's clearance and kind of getting started, adding things to your activity. We've heard this before. We see it online. We see it in social media. We see it on the news. We see it in infomercials. The benefits of really activity at any level above rest. The benefits of it really can really be seen, and the list could be a mile long. Everything between reducing disease risk, cancer risk, anxiety, depression, psychological mental health improvements. Really, the list of benefits of activity, or exercise, is really could be endless, based on the individual. And I can go through bore you with 1,000 items, but if somebody has specific things like improving their pulse rate, their resting heart rate, their resting blood pressure, diabetics improving their blood sugars, the way their body processes blood sugars. So quite often, health, improving somebody's health could be, again, a motivating factor enough for somebody to start adding activity to their lifestyle. And when somebody starts to add activity to their lifestyle on a regular, formal basis, or even informal, one thing I really try and emphasize to individuals is, okay, we walked a mile, we burned 100 calories, we walked a mile, my sugar dropped 30 points. That's all fine and dandy, and that's part of it. But arguably, almost the bigger part of the benefit of activity is not the initial gain over that little period of time that you were actually active, is the almost a bigger portion is what that window of activity did for you over the long run. So yeah, we burned 30 30 glucose points. We dropped our blood pressure. We dropped our blood sugar a little bit. We did a bunch of these great things, but ultimately, when you tune up your body with exercise, everything inside works better. Metabolism increases when you're not exercising. Blood sugar control improves when you're not exercising. Insulin sensitivity improves when you're not exercising. So all the benefits of exercise or activity on a regular basis really happen after the fact, and those go through life. What somebody gains in 2 or 3 months of activity, whether it's strength training, whether it's flexibility, whether it's cardiovascular fitness, improvements that somebody achieved over a 3-month window can be completely negated and back down to starting points in as little as 10 days to maybe 3 weeks tops, and then you're back down to almost where you started. Now, if somebody falls off in that regard, coming back to where they were when they stopped exercising, they fell off the wagon a little bit, they would come back to that level pretty quickly because they have some underlying condition effect from being active over that 3-month window. Okay. So actually, I'm going to pause every once in a while. If somebody wants to ask a question, feel free to either click the raise your hand icon, or you can put where's the chat? You can put a Q&A or a question in the chat box, and I'll keep checking if we hit on a topic or a question on a topic. I'll try and integrate it into the lecture. The other thing, if somebody has a question that relates to anything I discussed or has a question outside of something that I didn't cover, feel free. This is all for the community. Ask anything, anytime that relates to activity, starting exercise, diabetes, anything that we've discussed so far. Feel free to ask anything you need. So we talked about, kind of getting started, things to do. When somebody says, okay, what do I do? What, do I want a treadmill? Do I want a bike? Do I want a pool? Do I, if I have access to certain things? Um, First of all, you got to do something that you like. I mean, it has to start with something that you genuinely enjoy doing, or you think that you would enjoy doing. I exercise frequently. I don't like the bike. I just don't like it. Bothers my bottom. I'm not a fan of the bicycle. I like the elliptical. I'll walk on the treadmill. Not a big fan of running. But I will walk. I do hiking outside out of the gym. The elliptical is great. Stairmaster is fine. I'm just not a fan of the bicycle. I like the rowing machine. It doesn't. Just not a fan of it. And we're all going to find things that we just we don't prefer, and we're more motivated to do things and continue repeating exercises with things that we actually enjoy doing. So you kind of want to pick something that's suitable for you. Accessibility, if people really like to swim or even walking in a pool, if you have access to a YMCA or a YW or a club, maybe you're lucky you have a pool in your backyard. Walking in the shallow end of a pool to get going exercising is great. There's a lot of resistance. I know you're a bit buoyant and it's good for arthritis, but boy, oh boy, you keep walking in a pool and you're not used to it. You go a little deeper, get that water above your chest, creating a little bit more drag, a little bit more pressure. You can get a pretty good exercise bout, even starting or maintaining something that you've done in the past. It's a great question. Thank you, Kay. You mentioned 5 stages of behavior change. So there are 5 stages, PC-PAM. There's pre-contemplation, contemplation, action. I'm going to write this down. I remember it as PC-PAM. Pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, and maintenance. Okay. So whenever, I can't do it. That's pre-contemplation. Maybe I'll do it. Okay, I'll prepare for it, which is the preparation part. Action, you're actually doing it. And once you get it done and you actually acted on it, how are you going to maintain it? Okay. The one thing, once you get to that level, if somebody, and this goes for really any behavior change that somebody's going to be kind of changing into. I always use the example of years ago when I had children, I had twins. I didn't sleep for a while for the first couple of months. It was tough. So it was introduced by something called coffee. And I hated the taste of it, but the caffeine seemed to work. So I ended up using a fair amount of sweetener, artificial sweeteners and sugars. And inevitably, it ended up being, caffeinated hot chocolate at that point. And over 6-8 months or a year, I realized it was just too sweet, too much sugar for me. I didn't like it. So I started to reduce the amount of sugars and sweeteners and creamers I was putting in, this lovely thing we all call coffee. Over time, I went through stages. I'm going to do it. And eventually I ended up doing it. And I guess now I would be considered being in my maintenance stage, because now if it's even a little bit too sweet, I'm going to add more go-go juice into the, more coffee into the mug. So pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, and maintenance. One thing that's left off the back side of it is a little thing we call relapse. Quite often with any behavior change, there can be, not always, an element of relapse, kind of going back to old habits again a little bit. Quite often the longer somebody holds on to a behavior change, that becomes your new normal. My coffee not being as sweet as it used to be is my new normal. So I don't relapse very often, and I really don't, because I don't like my coffee that sweet. And it took a little bit of transition to get to that point. So my new normal is my not too sweet coffee. And it works, and I made a change. And it's a very simplified example of somebody going through stages and actually getting to the point where they're in a maintenance stage. People fall off the wagon a little bit. Maybe they say, oh, I'm not going to do this, or I'm not going to do that, or I'm going to go to the gym, and they fall off a little bit. They say, okay, they have they had a weekend sitting around the house. Like, what, I got to get back to the gym on Monday. So they go back to their maintenance after a relapse over a weekend. But whenever any behavior change has taken place, in the back of your head, you always kind of want to think about the fact that, okay, what's my out? What's my escape plan? What am I going to do if I fall back a little bit? prepare. You don't want to prepare to fail, but prepare the potential of kind of relapsing to bad, or old habits, which is what you were trying to stay away from in the first place. Hope that answered your question. Okay. Okay. Any other questions in there? Okay. So, when you look at, I go to a gym, what do I do? If you're going in, if you're going to join it, if you have access to a facility, if you have experience, you have somebody to walk with, it doesn't always have to be something entirely formal. If you want to do something formal, again, I always, suggest going back to that doctor's visit, get some doctor's clearance, maybe the physician or your cardiologist or, your endocrinologist or your primary have say, what, I would go here. I know the people, most of my patients go here and it's safe. We have a great place here at the hospital that has a clinically supervised environment. But if that's not your type of environment, inevitably, if somebody's going into a formal environment like a gym, I would suggest direction right off the bat, because the last thing you want to do is go to a gym and hurt yourself. Mess that up. Back to square one. Now I can't even walk on a treadmill because I went too fast and I pulled my calf. So, it may pay for itself in the long run to get some professional assistance. Getting a quality, even if it's a personal training session, to get somebody just some, an orientation to some of the equipment, some simple exercises, picking a speed or an elevation on a treadmill, picking the pressure or the speed on a bicycle, trying something new, trying, a different piece of equipment, something that you've never seen before. This day and age, there are quite a few things that are very different than there were 20, 30, 40 years ago. There's been a lot of innovation in the exercise, world. If joining, sorry, my other world is calling me. Hold on, let me shut this off. If joining a formal environment is either not appealing or not possible, or it's just you want to try some things on your own, I tell people, once you've cleared by your doctor, if that's an issue, and I kind of go back to that a little bit because I think it's important, you walk. Just get a good pair of shoes, good pair of socks, something comfortable, and take a walk. And you know what? If you go 5 minutes away from your house, got to walk 5 minutes back, see how you feel. Maybe walk another 5 minutes down the street, walk 5 minutes back. That's 20 minutes right there. And, it's, something, just enough to kind of stimulate the body, get the heart rate up, get the blood flowing, all that junk that kind of sits around in our body, which we call, a byproduct of activity. So it really, a little can go a long way over, a short period of time. Now, when you look at adding activity in general, I find it helpful. People don't do it because it takes time and it can be boring. What's the goal? Okay, why are you doing it? Because your husband told you, or your wife told you, or your kids told you. Mom, Dad, you got to start exercising. Your spouse is yelling at you from across the room. You need to go to the gym. So inevitably, we all want everybody around us that we love to be healthy, but it really should start. It has to come within. If the doctor recommends it, sometimes it's helpful. So it's my health, and but ultimately, you got to want to do it for a reason. So goal setting can be very, very important, very effective in terms of starting and adhering to any change, especially in this instance, activity or exercise. The goals that you set for yourself really have to be, I hate to use the word practical because it's so common, but it really has to be practical. I'm going to lose 50 pounds in February. I'm going to feel great. It's a lot of weight to lose in a short period of time. I'm going to get my blood sugar A1C number down from 10 down to 5. Great goal. That's a long-term goal. Shorter goals make behavior change more attainable and we're more likely to adhere them, primarily because we're motivated because we're seeing success. Okay. there's nothing like going on a long trip and you're on one road for 300 miles. And if you're thinking 0 to 300 miles, your brain's gonna blow up because you're bored out of your mind. If you think about it in terms of, okay, let's just go 20 more miles, 20 more miles. It doesn't seem like such a big stretch. The Surgeon General, they always talk about 150 minutes of exercise per week, 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. Does that have to be formal? We just want you to move, sweeping, pushing, lifting, pulling, gardening, golf to some extent, tennis to some extent. Just being active is really the big component. And getting back to my comment earlier about it's not all about what benefit you had during the exercise or the activity bout. It's what that exercise bout is going to do for you on a consistent basis over the long term. Okay. I get asked about weight loss a lot. What's the best way to lose weight? And it's a very simple, and I know it's an easy answer. It's a very traditional, correct answer is, really comes down to calories in and calories out. And I've heard the story before. Oh, I have a low metabolism. That doesn't work for me. Unfortunately, it does work for somebody with a lower metabolism, which means that they're burning less calories at rest and maybe during exercise. Probably just means they need less calories. And, if we're not used to eating less calories, it's a big deal for some people. And if they make a change from A to Z, it's more likely not going to be able to be adhered to. Small changes over a longer period of time using goals and goal setting as a resource for an individual to succeed is really a practical way to go about thinking about it. Okay. All right. So, but so if you go somewhere or you have an estimation of what your caloric intake should be or your metabolism should be, and you're exercising and you're being active, and maybe you wear a watch or you count your steps, and you have an estimation of how many calories you've burned throughout the course of the day and or a week and or a month, and you start adding up, caloric intake. Hopefully, you're going to start to see some differential there where, your calorie burning is here and your calorie intake is here. That little deficit in there is going to come from stored body fat. And if you burn 3,500 excess calories over what you take in, that's traditionally 1 pound of body fat that somebody theoretically would lose. If somebody has a poor eating weekend, they put on 4 or 5 pounds. They had, they went to, Uncle Jimmy's barbecue and Aunt Maria's pasta dinner. They had, and they had an untraditional eating weekend for them. Monday morning, my God, I feel bloated. I'm up 4 or 5 pounds. How did I eat 20,000 extra calories? You probably didn't. When individuals eat unconventional foods in larger amounts, it tends to retain a lot of fluid. So if people lose 5 or 6 pounds over 3 or 4 days, generally, mostly it's water. It would be theoretically, mathematically almost impossible for somebody to lose that much body weight, body fat, I should say, in that small period of time. So to use my calculator, if somebody were to, let's just say, lose 5 pounds over a couple of days, 5 times 3,500, you're talking about, 17,500 calories that they burned beyond what they took in over that 4 or 5 day window. Walking a mile burns 100 calories. Unfortunately, exercise alone does very little for weight management, which is why we discuss sleeping better, healthier lifestyles, being more active, exercising, eating a healthy diet. All of these things combined, will, if individuals adhere to it for a long enough period of time, will have some success. Okay. It's frustrating to hear that walking a mile only burns 100 calories. It's really unmotivating, but it's equivalent almost to putting fuel in your car. You fill your car up with gas, takes you 2 minutes, 3 minutes to fill a tank. Even if it takes 4, minutes to fill up your tank. It may take you 4, 5, 6 days to burn it down. It may take you 4 weeks to burn that down, depending on how much you drive. Me, I'm a commuter. I fill up once a week. But again, I pull to the gas station. Takes me 2, 3, 4 minutes to fill a tank. Still takes me 5, 6, 7 days before I need to stop again. So the energy we take in happens very quickly. Unfortunately, in this day and age of instant gratification, getting that energy out takes much, much, much longer. We can eat 100 calories in a cookie. It's going to take you 15, 20 minutes to walk a mile. So you eat that cookie, see you in 20 minutes. It's unfortunately that that much of a difference. And again, in our day and age of instant gratification, it's patience is can be challenging. I mean, everything we have in our society, our lives is, right here. I mean, everything, we live off cell phones, computers, social media, our medical records, Zoom, we used to do these in person, and Zoom became, very, very beneficial because either people, it's more convenient, but people didn't get out and go see other people. But, started with the pandemic, but, some people that couldn't get out for some reason now have access to listening to lectures without having to leave in the comfort of their own home to deal with, 10-degree weather, 15-degree weather, stormy weather like yesterday. But weight loss and weight management can be very, very frustrating because the process is not always the fastest, especially when you do it the right way. And like I said, that behavior change mechanism over a longer period of time tends to be more effective when you have some professional guidance. Looking at my notes here. Yes, if anybody has any questions, drop them in the bin. I'm almost done covering things that I wanted to cover. So, back to the original topic, adding activity. If somebody's been, the good old word couch potato, or just been inactive, or never really had an experience with anything, formally active, doing things around the house, we have to remember really are kind of a warm up to things that we want to do in terms of getting ourselves moving again. Okay. There are a few components of, what we call physical fitness. There's muscular strength, there's muscular endurance, there's cardiovascular endurance, there's flexibility, there's balance. And these are all kind of overlapping in a lot of ways. So because of all of those things, the needs for those individuals vary dramatically. We get, people, elderly and aging individuals who really need help with balance. And, come to find that they're in balance, and their risk of falling primarily is because of a couple of things. So we can work on their balance and give them balance exercises, but embedded in that is, are their muscles weak? Are their muscles just tight? Are they just not in really good cardiovascular shape? The answer is yes. At some point in time, all of those components of what we call physical fitness, could really play a role in really anybody. You watch that, national championship football game on Monday night. These guys are enormous. And I bet you every single one of those 9,000 offensive linemen, those big guys up front. And my God, they work on endurance, they work on flexibility, they work on balance, and these are, elite 20, 21, 22-year-old athletes that, are plugging away a lot of muscle and weight and balance and blocking and running. So really at any stage, you're going to incorporate everything. And everything has an equal benefit in terms of, ultimately why we want to exercise. We want to be healthy. We want to lower the risk of disease. Yes, all of that, right back to the beginning of the benefits of adding physical activity, to your lifestyle. It's working in a health environment. I've been with the hospital now, I think close to 25 years. I've learned more from my patients I've seen over 20, 25 years than I think they've learned from me. Now, what does that mean? I see firsthand what happens to individuals who may have wished they quit smoking sooner, may have wished they paid attention to their diet sooner, may wish they paid attention to their family history a little bit sooner. So all these risk factors for disease, I'm 52 years old. I grew up, everybody was smoking cigarettes. My grandmother was smoking Camel non-filters. We didn't know. I worry about that because I was exposed to that as a kid. In the 1972 Chevy Impala, the windows rolled up. My father's smoking his Marlboros. Hopefully that doesn't catch up to myself as I get older. But I saw what my father went through. I see what some patients went through with being exposed to first and secondhand smoke, environmental exposures. Either with their job. I mow my grass. I get allergies. I wear a mask. I blow my leaves. I do weeding. I wear a mask. I clean my garage. I'm allergic to dust. I wear a mask. So I keep my triggers, away from me. So these are all things that I've learned from my patients on what to pay more attention to. And listen, we can all be as careful as we want, and our genetics are going to tell us what, when, and where, why, and how ultimately. But adding activity is one of the kind of first lines of defense for fending off a lot of potential comorbidities, risk factors, complications that may occur over the long term. Healthy living, consisting of, good, healthy personality, good sleep, controlling, cardiac vital signs, following up with your doctor's visits, being more, being more consistent with just being active. And so again, they really all add up over time. But again, goal setting, understanding that nobody is going to change behavior immediately. It doesn't always work. Remember those 5 stages. Making those goals practical. And what I mean by that is, well, what's the plan? What's your ultimate goal? And then how are you going to get there? And then how are you going to stagger your time when you get there? Because along the way, you want to be able to reevaluate how well you're doing, or maybe you're not doing well. Maybe maybe what they say, you jump the shark, right? So maybe he says, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna lose, let's just say, 'cause it's an easy topic, I'm gonna lose 5 pounds in the month of January. Maybe you only lost 3.5. All right, I'm gonna lose 5 pounds in February. Maybe you only lost 3.5. And so, I'm doing all this work, I'm not making my goal. Maybe you set your goal a little bit too high. So, every once in a while you have to reevaluate what your goal really is, and are you achieving it, or is it practical? Maybe you overshot the runway a little bit. Maybe you taper it down a little, and then, psychologically, it will become more motivating because you hit your goal. Then you can adjust it from there. So it's almost like bidding on a house. Not gonna have so you come down, you bid back up, and you get the house. So if you overshot the runway a little bit, sometimes you kind of have to go back and reevaluate what the end result really is. Okay. That's all I really have for everybody. Love to hear if anybody has any questions. I'll stay on for a minute. Okay. All right. If nobody has anything else, so our our department here at the hospital is the Center for Healthy Living. We have a program called Medical Fitness, which is located at 500 West Putnam. We're up on the 3rd floor. If anybody's familiar with the new 500 West Putnam Greenwich Hospital location, we're next to Cinderella on the 3rd floor. near the cardiovascular group here in town. They're right down the hall. We have a self-pay program called Medical Fitness, which is a medically supervised exercise cardiovascular program. Runs 1 hour, 2 or 3 days a week, depending on what dates you choose. Self-pay service, so it's not an insurance covered service. It's $70 per month for 2 days, $110 a month for 3 days a week. For the entire month, it's a month-to-month membership. And really, if you come in, we check your vital signs. We monitor your heart rate and blood pressure through your exercise. And the more and more independent somebody gets, we progress them accordingly. It's a group setting, so it's not individual, private, personal training, but you get some pretty individual care. Most people get very, very independent the longer they've come. And we've had some people that have been here quite a long time. So, we're constantly chasing them down to check their vitals because they're moving through their program, through their program at their own pace. It's a great asset for somebody who wants to kind of get back into it. Doctors can send a referral for service into our work queue. And we're on the Greenwich Hospital website as well for our contact information. So if nobody has anything else, I hope everybody has a great evening. Hope everybody has a happy new year, healthy new year. And again, program is listed on the Greenwich Hospital website, Center for Healthy Living, cardiac and pulmonary rehab, but our programs kind of all run together. So if anybody doesn't have any questions, hope everybody has a good evening, and hope I get to lecture some of you again at some point, and everybody have a great night. Thank you.